Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this week's video, what we're going to take a look at is ragdolling or ragdoll effects. This is basically where your character model or an enemy model becomes lifeless and just sort of flops. Where you might have seen something similar to this is if you imagine like Grand Theft Auto, GTA. If you get hit by a car or if you fall off something, your body becomes temporarily lifeless just while you fall or get hit across the environment. And then obviously after that, if you're still alive, you can get back up. And if you're not, obviously you stay ragdolled. There are many games which use this mechanic. A lot of games that when you're attacking an enemy, when they die, your character would the enemy would typically ragdoll and sort of fall on the floor, as you'd expect. So a quick example of this, if we do. So obviously I've got the ragdoll effect set up with some keyboard presses just so I can trigger it. But you sort of, instead of a keyboard press, you can have a on hit. If the character's health falls below a certain value, you can set it up however you like. But effectively, if I activate it, I've just got this lifeless ragdoll. And then, excuse my effects here, but we burst back to life when I reset it. So the reset you could have after 3 or 4 seconds of being on the ground, it resets. And obviously I've just put some really quickly put together effects there just to sort of mask the absence of an animation. Effectively, you might be able to find an animation online, but I'll leave that with you. You can make one. Stuff like the ALS, the advanced locomotion system, has an animation in that, and a lot of this code is actually borrowed from that. Obviously, I quite like the ragdoll system in that, so it makes sense to sort of see how it was done and sort of tweak it. And I've effectively made a more basic version, but with that, we don't have the animation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's jump into the video because it's relatively simple. So what I've gone and done is I've got a third-person character here, which has none of this code in it, and then we'll go ahead and make that. So I'll just switch the character out to the blank one. So now if I run around and press my sort of ragdoll button, that doesn't work. Ignore the health bar at the bottom. That's actually from a previous video. That if you're interested about moving UI elements around the screen, so if you want to move your health bar around or customizable UI, I'll leave the card up somewhere, whichever side it's on, around now, and you can check that out. But that's not what this video is about, so let's just skim past that. So let's get into it. So like I said, apart from just that health bar being added to my screen, this is a fresh template. So there's no other sort of changes made here, so there's nothing that you need to be aware of before you do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the E key on my keyboard just to activate this this ragdoll. So I'm going to do E keyboard, board, E keyboard. That normally brings up the key, but I guess not. So the E key. And then what we realistically need to do is we need to tell this body mesh that it needs to enable physics, because at the moment, if we with the mesh selected and we scroll down in the details panel, you can see simulate physics is turned off. And at the moment, when we press enable, it's kind of being held together with this capsule, so it doesn't really do anything. But if I was to simulate physics on every bone in this sort of skeleton or all bodies, it would drop to the floor, but I can't tick that from here. So firstly, we need to activate sort of simulate physics, so it just flops. We also need to turn some of the collisions off on the capsule, so it doesn't sort of fight with the mesh that's sort of jiggling around inside it. And we also need to activate collisions for the mesh within it. Because believe it or not, this mesh will just fall straight through the floor if we enable physics, because it'll just fall straight through the map. So we've got a couple of things that we need to do. So I think to start with, when we press the key, I'm going to add a sequence node, and I'll explain why later on. But effectively, a sequence node allows you to do multiple actions from one sort of execute. So it's going to do this, and then that, and then that, and then that. So it's pretty straightforward. It just does things in series or in sequence. So the first thing we're going to do is just come off the then one, and we're going to change the collision profile for the capsule. Because we don't want it to sort of interfere with our sort of character mesh. Because what they do is the collision settings on the mesh and the capsule, they fight each other, and it becomes weird. So I'm going to grab the capsule reference, and from that I'm just going to do set collision. No, I'm not. Collision enabled. So we'll change that to no collision. So we'll leave it there. Then from that we need to start affecting the mesh. So drag the mesh out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the collision object type to a physics body. Whoops. I'm going to grab a reroute node on this sort of mesh reference just so it looks a bit tidier. Drag that out. And then we're going to do set collision enabled. Change the collision to collisions enabled, so physics and queries. Because at the moment there isn't any physics on it, any collisions. And then finally, what we want to do is we're going to set all bodies to simulate physics. And then what we need to make sure we do is we just tick this simulate box, double click that, pop that there, so it looks nice and neat. If you highlight all of your, not all of your nodes, but if you highlight nodes you want to be in line and hit Q, it actually puts them nice and straight together, which is pretty cool. It's good for keeping stuff looking nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run that and just show you exactly what that's going to do so far. So we're going to run, we're going to hit Q, and you can see that my camera is following my capsule, so it feels a little bit disconnected, and also my mesh has now flown over there, and that's mainly because the camera has stayed with it. So at this point we don't have a reset, so I'm going to have to close the game. Let's just reload that and just make that a bit more dramatic. So we'll run up here, and if I jump and hit E, well, as you can see what's happened there, the capsules just fell straight through the game. But my mesh has stayed up on the world, but that's not something you want to look at. So, a couple of things that we can do. The reason we use this sequence is because the actual capsule component itself, because we've set no collisions, it's just falling through the game. What we can actually do is just say wherever the body goes, just follow it for now, for the time being. But to do that, well, an easy way to do that is we need to do that sort of like on tick or every frame, just so it's nice and consistent. But instead of just having a tick here and doing it all, what we can create an event which automatically updates itself anywhere, and it's based on a custom movement mode. So what we can do is get your character's movement component, and we'll do set movement mode. And what we want to do is we want to change it to custom. So we'll do that first. So we're going to change this to custom, and then we can sort of set up an update loop. Now the reason I'm using that is because if we go to functions over on the left, you'll see we've got this overrideable button, and there are loads of overridables that you can choose from, but one of them is update custom movement. So this is an event for implementing custom character movement modes called by if the movement mode is set to custom. So when we set that to custom, we get this function, and basically this runs pretty much every frame, updating. So for as long as that's set to custom, this is going to keep running, which is a perfect place for us to set like a set location. So we'll grab the capsule component from here, let's paste it, and then what we can do is set world location. We don't really need to worry about rotation at this point because it's not like we can control the character when we're ragdolling. And then what we want to do is we want to get the mesh, probably. Whoops, didn't mean to paste that. Paste there like that. What we'll do is we'll get a socket location. Because we don't want to do the feet, we don't want to do the head, but I'm going to go for the middle of the body. So I'm just going to go for pelvis. So wherever the pelvis is, just tag onto that. Yep. And that's pretty much it. So let's see what happens now. So we're going to jump, we're going to hit E, and you see that wherever the body goes, the capsule stays with it. So that's pretty good. If for whatever reason you didn't want to do that, what you could do is set your camera boom to your mesh. Let's just get rid of this for now. That way, when you do trigger it, your camera follows your mesh. However, I don't know if you can see it. The actual capsule is going to stay wherever it was originally. So let's connect that back up. And now we get this. So it's completely up to you whether you attach the camera boom to your mesh or not. I can't see it making too much of a difference, no matter which way you go. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So now what we can do is we can work on the reset side of things. So the reset's largely going to be the opposite of that. So down below, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press R key. Struggling to spell here. I'm going to say the same thing I always do, is I've got a bloody big microphone in front of me and it always gets in the way. So the R key. And then what we want to do is obviously everything in reverse. So I'm going to do a sequence node. And first thing I'm going to do is set movement mode. And we can't because we need the character's component. Movement component, sorry. So set movement mode. Now, one thing I should probably mention is, let's say your character's still flying through the air. You could set your movement mode back to flying. But for my instance, I'm probably going to set it back to a walking. Walking's kind of the default. Even if you're stationary and you're not doing anything, it's walking. So I like that description in a sense. Walking on a surface. I'd say if your character or your model is on a surface in general, you're probably walking. I guess you'd be in a surface though, or in it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's select walking in this instance. That's going to be the first thing that we do. What that's going to do is it's going to stop this custom update from running. So we're no longer going to be updating the capsule to the mesh. So that's the first thing. Then what we want to do, to be fair, I'm probably just going to copy the first portion of this just to save us having to redo it. Let's paste that. Plug that in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the capsule component back to collision enabled. So you want query and physics. Let's just pull that out. Then I'm going to set the object type back to pawn. The collision profile we're going to set back to, it was query only. And then we want to, I should have copied that to be fair. We want to set the simulate bodies to false. Simulate physics back to false. Let's just pull that over here. Double click that. And for the most part, that's going to be fine. But the thing is, what happens for some reason when you set simulate physics, it detaches the actual mesh from the reason that the body and the capsule separated is because they become unattached. Technically at the moment, so you can see here I'm running around and my character's kind of just flopped on the floor. That's because they've separated. Because the mesh here is actually a child of the capsule, it's technically parented to it. So wherever the capsule goes, the mesh goes. but when you set physics enabled, for some reason they separate. So we need to reattach the character, the mesh to the capsule. So what we're going to do is we're going to do attach component to component. I want mesh, so we'll select mesh. If you don't pick mesh, don't worry about it. You can literally just drag your mesh out and connect it to the target. And then your parent is going to be the capsule component. So what we're saying is, can we stick the mesh back to the capsule component? And then what we need to do is we need to snap the rotation to be fair, I don't think these matter too much, apart from you don't want to keep relative and world. You might want to keep relative for the scale, but everything else you want snap. The reason being is, if we see, do we want to bone? Change the bone name to root. It's not bone actually, it's a socket, but let's change the socket name to root. The reason being is because the root is at the very bottom, just there. Okay, so for some weird reason, when you keep the relative, it keeps it where it was in the world. I don't know if you can see, but over in the back corner there's a random body on its side, and there you go. So it's kind of you can see it over in the back corner. It's kind of wherever the mesh landed in the world, it's kept that distance and reattached it. You don't want to do that. So what you want to do is you want to snap to target. So we're going to put it back to where the sort of root socket is. And then if I hit play and press R, so it snaps to it. However, it's not in the right place. So if you look at your mesh as it is now, the sort of relative position to the capsule is -89 and rotation 270. So what we can simply do is just set relative location and rotation. Get rid of that second mesh. New location, -89. And for rotation, I'm going to go 270. Whoops, 270. And that's pretty much it. So let's hit play. So now we can jump, hit E, do a ragdoll, and then hit R, and we get our character back in working condition. Just like that. And then if you really want to, what you can do is you can spawn a system at location. Now this is a particle effect, so you'll have to create one. I'll show you that in a sec if you want to. Little Niagara system. Location is going to be get actor location. I don't need anything else. So now when I ragdoll and I want to reset, I get a nice explosion of colour just to hide the fact that I don't have an animation. You can create that, by the way, by going to FX, Niagara system, new system from selected emitters, select a few of these, I don't know, like a burst and an omnidirectional burst, add some colour to it, increase the size of your particles, and then just chuck it in your blueprint. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I want to share. So obviously you can set it up where once you get hit, you can ragdoll, and then after a few seconds it refreshes itself. So what you could do is let's get rid of this. So this is for obviously a delayed get up. I'm just going to move that to the end of my E key. I'm going to keep it on E for now. Let's go to delay. Let's add a sort of... The thing is, it depends what you're going to do here. If this is going to be for your character, let's say you fall off something, you're going to need to know the time of how long that fall's going to take. Actually, I've just thought of another way you could do it, but we'll do this first. Connect that to that, hit compile. So what we'll do now is jump, ragdoll, and then after a few seconds, we burst back to life. So that's an option. But what I should probably do is I should probably say that's pretty much it. I'm going to do some bonus content in just a second where I'm going to play around with something that may or may not work. I'm going to try and get the velocity of the character, and when it reaches 0, then it's going to restart, so we know the character stopped jiggling around. But if that's all you needed from this video, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a like. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how I did. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you want anything else. I do respond to the comments. And if you want to go into a much more detailed discussion about it, or if you just like joining Discord servers, feel free to click the link down below and join the Discord server. There's plenty of us all asking questions and all answering questions. And I'm usually in there quite a lot. It's easier to share videos and screenshots, so it's usually a better place to chat. But I'll leave that up to you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So what I'll do now is I'll chuck on some bonus content, because I don't think we're at the time limit I normally quit at. So I've got about 8 minutes to play with. So let's have a little look. So get velocity. Where is that stat stored? Velocity. Get velocity. That's there. What I'm going to do is, before we change back, because this is updating every frame, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cheeky and just make sure this is the thing that I need. And I'm just going to plug a get velocity into a print string, and let's just see what numbers come out. Print strings are your best friend, by the way. If you're ever not sure if your code's working the way it should be, print string or debug or console log, whatever your language is. Okay. So that seemed like a single instance. No, it didn't. It was printing on the screen. So was that the velocity at the time? So let's do velocity of the mesh. No. Let's get mesh. Can we get velocity of that? Get component velocity. Let's try and plug that into here. I'm sure it's get velocity. Okay, so the character's still jiggling around on the floor. Oh, there we go. So it finally zeroed out. Now, that took longer than I would like. So what I'm thinking is, let's just look at the numbers again. So if the numbers are less than 1, I'm probably going to go for it. So what we'll do is, because this is a vector, we can do a normalize. Let's just do a normalize, and let's plug that in just to take some of that edge off. Whoa. Okay, so that normalizes a bit quicker. Interesting. I'm not sure if normalize helps. So we're at 500, 500. Okay, so if we're at less than 5, can we do a less than? Less than or equal to, let's say, split. So let's say the x. Let's do it for all of them. Let's say and. Let's do another and. because it's got to look absolutely terrible. If these are less than 5, yeah, I'd love for tab to sort of tab to the next nearest. So if it's less than or equal to 5 is true. False, 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 true. Maybe 5's a little bit too high. Let's go for 2. I tell you what, I should have converted this to a thing. Let's go ragdoll, reset, tolerance, compile 2, and then just plug this into all of them. Save me having to go through and renumber them all the time. Hit compile, hit play. There we go. Yeah, that'll do. So, get rid of that print string now. We don't need that. And let's say if this becomes true, so we'll do a branch, pop that into there. If that becomes true, let's grab that. Let's do our reset code. So obviously this is our reset. What I might do is I might drag that over here, hit C on the keyboard. You can wrap it in a comment. Ragdoll reset, just like that. So that's going to be the reset, and let's get rid of that R button. Don't need that anymore. And let's wrap all of this in a ragdoll activate. I think I've spelled that wrong. Put that in orange or in red. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm wasting time. That's going to bug me, but let's go. So, let's do a ragdoll. Pop. There we go. I quite like that. That might be a bit too short, actually. So, let's grab our ragdoll test. Let's change that to 4. Oh, interesting. Because I was flying, yeah, see, it's feeling a little bit too quick now. Okay. 10. Anyway, I think what you should probably do, because I'm just testing numbers here for my own curiosity now, but what you should probably do is have a play around with it. Let me know what you think. If I manage to find an animation which is free, I'll pop it down in the description. I'm probably unlikely to find one that's free. I might do though, who knows. If I do find one, I'll pop it down in the description, just as a bit of an added bonus if you've made it this far to the end. So I hope I find one now. I can sort of put that one on me. But anyway, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. And like I said before, if you wanna chat with me, come and find me in Discord. We'll have a chat. If you don't have Discord, that's absolutely fine. Just comment down below in the description, in the comment section, and I'll chat with you there as well. Albeit YouTube doesn't tend to notify me when you've actually posted, and it'll tell me like a day later that I've not contacted you back. But I'm just talking rubbish now. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.